Evening, Cherries fans, and welcome to our latest podcast here, Cherry Picking. We're now on episode 3. Before we get going, here's a little bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. To find out what they can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. So, as per normal, we have got my two trusty counterparts beside me. So, hello, Chris. You donning the new kit? Do give us a whirl.
Yep, sure I am. It's the one without the sponsor's logo on.
Awesome stuff. And Matt, you're donning a third kit from a couple of seasons ago, but one of the nice ones, wasn't it?
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah. And Stanislas on the back. There we go. And I'm donning an England kit for God knows what reason. Why? I guess it's the Women's Euros. So that's my excuse. But we've got a number of topics that we are going to discuss tonight. But one thing that we are doing is we are doing something called fantasy football. And I'll pass it over to Chris and he can explain exactly how you can get involved.
Okay, so we're running it through Sky Sports Fantasy Football. So what you have to do is you have to download the Sky Sports Fantasy Football app to your phone. And then you pick your team. Once you picked your team, you look for our league. So you search Cherry Picking up the cherries in all departments. And then you just type in the PIN number 1097318, and then that signs you up to our league, and it's free to play. So yeah, come and have a go. We're going to do some prizes at the end of the season. We're not 100% decided on what they're going to be, but yeah, we're going to do prizes and weekly shout outs for who's doing really well.
One thing I do know that is going to be a prize is going to be what I'm going to call the Shite Cup. So it's not going to be a particularly very good cup, but, you know, it's something to put on your mantelpiece if you really want to say, look, I've won this. So, yeah, I'll be going down to Poundland to purchase that, but the other prizes are a little bit better, let's say. So, let's talk firstly about a couple of things. So, of course, the new kit's out, but we haven't seen as yet this away kit. And there's been lots of rumours about it. I did see online that it was about palm trees, which is a little bit bizarre. I guess we've got a couple of them down Bournemouth Beach, but do tell us if there's any more that you know.
When I went to collect this shirt today, the lady in the club shop, she was talking to another fan. She said it's definitely going to be a bit outlandish, going to be very sort of very bright, maybe a little bit in your face, but she said it's like it's going to be a classic, is what she said, was her words. So sounds exciting.
What colours do you reckon, guys, it's going to be?
It's got to be bright, hasn't it?
I reckon yellow.
Yeah.
I haven't had a yellow one for, like, I'm talking like not a fluorescent colour, but a yellow.
Yeah.
Yellow with some blue patterns on. Something like that.
I was thinking, and I thought, And you know, when palm trees was mentioned, I was thinking it was going to be like a blue and a greeny sort of colour, but I'm wondering if it's going to be a yellow mixed with a green. So sand and palm trees. It'll be something completely and utterly bloody different, to be fair. You know, if it's that. But I think West Brom had a yellow and green kit a few years back, didn't they? And that was.
That's a traditional colour for West Brom's away kit, I think.
Yeah,
they've had a lot of yellow and green striped shirts over the years.
Yeah, some of them have been pretty hideous, to be honest, haven't they? Some of theirs.
Yeah. Yellow and green is normally a tradition for them. But it'd be nice to see. It would be nice to see something really different. Obviously, a couple of seasons ago, we had the Bournemouth Beach on the blue strip, didn't we?
Yeah.
With a bit of the pier on it. And I think up until now, that's probably one of my favourite away shirts just because it was so different. Something loud and colourful. Definitely up my street. I'll probably end up buying that one before the home one, to be honest.
Yeah. To be fair, the third kit this season, it's smart. It is smart. But on the spin side of it, it's not what you would call a traditional third kit. It's not out there. But, I reckon this away kit's going to be something special. So, yeah, we will wait and see. And no doubt next week when we do this show, we will be talking about that. But one thing that we're going to do today is we're going to pick our first best 5 Cherries players. So our favourite 5 Cherries players, I should say, from throughout the years. So who wants to go first with this?
Chris.
Yeah, I'll go first, yeah.
Fair enough. So, shall we start with number 5 then? It's a bit like Top of the Pops, isn't it? But a lot less shit. Here we go. So, number 5.
Cool. So, big Fletch. So, we got, Fletch.
A little bit there. Still skipped a little bit. There we are. Technical issues. There we go.
Right. So, we got Fletch, yeah. So, there's a bit about him. Made his debut in 92-93 season. Also was the season that he scored his first goal. In his time at Bournemouth, he wore the squad numbers of number 10 and number 33. 33, obviously, when he returned. Return of the God. Total AFC Bournemouth appearances in all competitions, a massive total of 714. In that, he's scored 122 goals with the massive 1 career hat-trick. I happened to miss that game because I was working, the kick in the balls. Matt will remember that because I
certainly do remember. I was there that day and I've got it on DVD, Chris, if you want to borrow it.
Yeah, I have the DVD as well, mate. Yeah, I cry every time I see it, My dad always rips me for that because I had the opportunity to get out of work that day, but I offered to do someone a favour. So I
do remember being sat with your dad.
Yeah.
And I think I might have said to my old man, he's on 2 goals, but how many times has he been on 2 goals before?
Yeah.
And then the third one goes in eventually, and you think, Jesus.
Yeah, definitely. And we got various pictures of Fletch in kit over the years. We had one in the Wembley shirt, one in the old Frizzell. Then we got him doing his Hulk pose. Got him a bit angry there. But yeah, we got lots of pictures of Fletcher, his various hairstyles over the year. But he's a god. He had to be in my top 5. Really, couldn't leave him out. I mean, the guy did so much for the club over the years. But not the most talented player overall, but put a lot in. Defenders were scared of him, set up a lot of goals. Massive part of keeping us in the Football League when he came back. Had a good link up with everybody he played with, Mark Steen, James Hayter, Brett Pittman, everybody really. Everyone, there he is with his match ball. Here he is with Brett. Yeah, Steve Fletcher at number 5 on Super Fletch.
Yeah, to be honest, I think, Fletch is a hero here. And, no Cherries fan, is unaware of what he's done for this club. So, yeah, I cannot disagree with him being in your top 5. Could you, Matt?
No, not at all. I mean, obviously, it's he's Mr. Bournemouth now, isn't he? He's, I mean, such an icon. I mean, I could have put him in my top 5, but I had a sneaky suspicion Chris would use him, so I thought I'd leave him out of mine. But yeah, I mean, it's not just like what Chris said. You know, he wasn't the most talented of players. No, he wasn't. But what he lacked in goals, he did create in assists, and you know, the way he used to hold the ball up, and you know, a lot of the strikers that have partnered with him, I mean, including Jermaine Defoe, have all said that, you know, Fletcher would take the pressure off them and do all the dirty work, leaving them to do the easy part, which was the finishing. And you could see that. I mean, he had so many strike partners over the years. I mean, I remember one of the earliest ones I remember seeing him play with would have been, well, Steve Cottrell, Steve Jones, you know, players like that. And he's played with all different caliber of striker as well. He always seemed to work better with a big man, small man, like Mark Steen, another great partnership. The amount of assists and goals he created for Steeno was immense. At one year, I think Steen hit 25 goals. I think 25 league goals. I think 1 year.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to have him in there, haven't you?
Mm.
Got to have him in there.
Yeah, that was my feeling. I couldn't leave him out of the top 5.
Shall we have a look at number 4 on your countdown, Chris?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Rightio.
So number 4, I had Darren Anderton. So a few of his stats for Bournemouth. Obviously, he came to Bournemouth with a bit of a sick note reputation from his time at Spurs. He made his debut on the 10th of February 2007. Also was his debut goal for Bournemouth as well, with a long-range free kick from about 40 yards, if I remember rightly. Wore the squad numbers of 25 and 8 in his time for Bournemouth. Made a total of 78 appearances and scored 13 goals across all competitions. Also played 30 games for England and scored 7 goals, including that one against Colombia in the World Cup. And he won a League Cup with Tottenham in his time in 98-99. We've got a few pictures of him here as well coming up.
Oh, you know, I am quite surprised with this one, to be honest.
I am,
Even
to be
though
fair.
Darren Anderton, it was a good player.
It's not my Bournemouth best 11. This is my Bournemouth, my favourite 11, our favourite 5. You know, he came to us with that reputation. When he arrived, I didn't think he'd play any games. You know, I thought he'd be injured the whole time. But he came to us. He proved us all wrong, didn't he? He put in a shift every time. He was a true professional. His passing was quality. He'd get the odd goal. You could see he'd been an international even at that age. He was just a really good example, I think, to the younger players in a time when we had such a lot going on at the club, you know? If you were Darren Anderton, I know he quit because Jimmy Quinn was there, but if you were Darren Anderton and you'd had all that experience and the international caps and stuff, would you want to go to a sinking ship like Bournemouth and try and pull them out of it? Probably not.
There is that. You
know, his passing was, even to this day, even with the Premier League times, I don't think there's been many better passes of the ball for Bournemouth. You know, even under Quinn, when we were, you know, we had no direction, he would be the one to pick the ball up and drive forward, you know? He was probably one of the only ones in that team that was still trying to obviously fight against Quinn and still go forward and shoot, you know? I just like his commitment.
Would you say, you know, if Quinn wasn't here and Eddie had taken over from Kevin Bond, do you personally think that, you know, maybe he might be on the same stature as, say, for example, Fletch? Do you think he might have got some even more vital goals in that running?
He would have definitely been there the whole of that season, and I think he probably would have stuck around for the season after when we got promoted. I think he retired because of Jimmy Quinn. He never would have reached Fletcher's level because obviously Fletcher was here for about 25 years. You know,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But Darren Anderton was, you know, late 30s when he retired from Bournemouth, but he only retired because he fell out of love with the game because of Jimmy Quinn. If if Eddie Howe had been there and the team turned around with Eddie Howe, we probably wouldn't have been in that dire situation if Howe had been there already. So he would have probably been enjoying football. We would have been playing better football. He probably would have been there probably another year and a half, you know?
Yeah.
So he would have played more games, scored more goals, enjoyed his last year or two, you know, not like the last 6 months of his career would have been a nightmare, you know?
Yeah, no, fair enough. Would you agree with that?
Surprised he's in there, got to admit. But no, I totally agree with all of Chris's points there. I mean, touching a little bit on what Chris was saying there when he fell out of love with the game and he did retire after he scored a screamer against Chester, wasn't it? If I remember right. Mm-hmm. And he signed off on a goal. There's a bit in his book. I've referred to this before. I keep plugging his book, don't I? But there's a bit in there where it actually explains that he either approached Howe or he was approached by Eddie Howe. And no, I think he approached Howe and said, I won't hand in my player's registration. If you get stuck and you need anybody, then I'm willing to come out for a week or a small period of time. So he did actually, to my knowledge, make that approach to Howe when Howe took over. But yeah, no, I mean, Chris is absolutely right. I mean, in terms of, especially for, I mean, I don't know whether I'd agree on the Premier League era, but definitely when he was there hadn't been a better pass for the ball, I don't think. I mean, don't forget he was a winger, wasn't he, in his younger days? Coming to Bournemouth, they played him central, and you know he would just, someone would pick him out, he'd hold the ball, look up, and he'd make a long pass look easy. And he'd pick out any player. And I mean, again, I think on his debut, I think he made his debut against Scunthorpe. Yeah,
Scunthorpe,
he scored a 35-yard free kick then, I think, if I remember rightly, being at that game. And, you know, and you were just praying he would stay fit. And for a lot of the time, he did stay fit. He did have a good run of games. And, yeah, I mean, like what Craig said, would he have been important during the run-in of that Great Escape season? He definitely would have been, and I think he definitely would have come up with some important goals. Who knows? We might not have been singing Fletcher's praises. It might have been Anderton that day that scored the winner of Grimsby, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely would have played on at least another season. Well, that's a good one. I think that's a good one to include, actually.
It's interesting.
Yeah, you won't think that about the next couple, I don't reckon.
Do you know what? You know, it's making my list look a lot less interesting. But let's pick out number 3.
Okay.
There's a name.
So yeah, okay. So we got Jack Wiltshire. So again, came to Bournemouth at the time when he came on loan. He didn't have to come to us. You know, he turned down a few bigger clubs. You know, I think he could have gone to Rumour. He had a lot of Premier League teams looking at us. You know. But he chose to come to Bournemouth because he liked what Eddie had to say for himself, you know, and the way Eddie spoke about the club. So, and again, made his debut on the 10th of the 9th, 2016. First goal obviously came when he came back in the second spell on the 26th of the 1st, 2021. All squad numbers 32 and 11. Total appearances only 44 and goals obviously only 2. Played for England 34 times, scored 2 goals. Both of those were in the same game. And he won the FA Cup twice with Arsenal. But again, he was another player. Like when he was fit, he was quality. He read the game again. He was a bit like Anderton. Like I know we're in the Premier League and we had a lot of quality players, but on the ball, I thought he was just something else again. You know, it's like he was a couple of seconds ahead of the rest of the midfield. Yeah, he was very unlucky not to score in his first spell. He had a lot of good, you know, a lot of chances. The keeper's made some world-class saves. He just read the game really well. You know, brought others in, assisted a few good goals. It's just very clever. Like I just liked his mind. I think he was really class. I was gutted when he retired the other day because I felt like he should have had a much better career, but obviously injuries have destroyed him, you know. But I just think he was really good for Bournemouth. If he hadn't got that injury against Tottenham, he obviously would have played the rest of that season. And I think if Tyndall hadn't have got sacked, he probably would have played most of the games in the season. We missed out in the playoffs. I mean, you know, obviously he wasn't didn't fit Woodgate's style. So, but again, I think very clever. You know, sometimes I like the brain of the player. You can see they're like a few passes ahead of the game before it's even come to them. Yeah, I just like his intellect.
I think that first spell that he had with us, and I was completely shocked when we signed him. I think he was just so clever, he knew exactly what was going on around the pitch, and that was Jack Wiltshire all over. I think the second time you've hit the nail on the head. You know, he still had the knowledge, but I think injuries had probably got the better of him, and then eventually, of course, the season, you know, ended in that way. He should have had a better career, most definitely. He struggled with injuries throughout. Personally, I think, you know, well, people were saying that he was going to be, you know, an England star. But he, unfortunately, due to the injuries, he just never really had that, did he?
No, not really.
So, yeah, I think I can see why he's in there. I wouldn't call him a Bournemouth legend, but
no, I wouldn't call him a Bournemouth legend.
Yeah,
he wouldn't make my best 11. He's just one of my favourite players.
Oh yeah, definitely, and I think that's where, you know, I think, you know, it makes sense him being in there. Should we have a look at number 2 then?
Yeah, go on then. Yeah. So number 2, we got Maxie Gradle. So again, this is based mostly on his first spell because he came to the club. I think it was a season where we got deducted points like towards the back end of the season. If I'm right, Matt, is that right?
Yes, you're right.
The season we went down to Carlisle last game of the season, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, and that season it was a funny story that season. Do you remember I think we played in the cup, and didn't him and Brett Pittman have a spat over who was taking a penalty?
Yeah, that actually made the BBC 9 o'clock news, if I remember right.
They had like an argy-bargy over who was going to take it, didn't they?
Yeah, they were having a argy-bargy, and it made the main news, didn't it, if I remember?
Yeah, but that season, he was just, his pace and his touch and the way he just went round people for fun, you know, he was just, and he scored some absolutely amazing goals that year, didn't he?
Yeah.
I just loved the way he just, I think, apart from Wade Elliott, I think he's the only player I ever saw Bournemouth have that just ran at people, you know? He just wasn't afraid, was he? Just went for it.
He was
quality.
He was very good, you know. And again, going back to his stats, he made his debut on the 11th of August 2007, scored his first goal for Bournemouth on 25th of August 2007, wore the squad numbers of 17 and 10 when he returned. 65 appearances, most of those came in his first spell, you know, because he was unlucky with a knee injury in the second spell. Scored 12 goals in all competitions. Had a very good international career, 98 games and 16 goals. And obviously he's won the African Cup of Nations in 2015. But yeah, when he came back, I was absolutely buzzing because I thought, it's going to be amazing. But obviously didn't quite turn out. You know, he looked quite sharp in those first couple of games, and he got that awful injury. I can't remember who it was against, but Leicester, was it?
Yes, that's right. It was, wasn't it 2 of them in the same game? I think it was Max and Tyrone Mings, wasn't it?
Yeah, Max and Tyrone Mings both did themselves in against Leicester, and he had a long time away. They came back. He scored against Swansea, I think, at home.
Yeah, that's right.
Went over and embraced Howe, and everything looked good. And then the second season, he just couldn't find any form, and he just drifted out of the team, unfortunately. But yeah, he's in this list because of basically that. Mostly the first season, that when we had him on loan, I just thought he was awesome. You know, the way he just ran at people, and some of the goals he scored, like 25 yardage, you know, and he just played with no fear, you know, just looked amazing.
He was definitely in that first spell a player that could have played at a higher level.
Yeah, definitely. He's proved it across Europe all the time. Apart from his second spell at Bournemouth, he's played in, you know, top league France. He's been in Turkey. I know they're not like Premier League, but they're decent leagues, you know, and he scores goals all the time, you know.
But I think, you know, like you say, he was unlucky with injuries in the Premier League, and, you know, he showed promise. again, I think, a bit like Wiltshire, he's one of those players that did pick up the injury and, just could not recover from it.
Yeah.
But what do you reckon, Matt?
Yeah. The first spell, definitely. At times he was unplayable. Yeah, it's a shame the second stint at Bournemouth didn't work out as well. Because it was quite exciting when we signed him. Yeah, and also if you just quickly go back to Jack Wiltshire, again, another quality passer of the ball. This is why when Anderton, I wouldn't quite agree that, over the whole period, the Premier League and the Football League days, that Anderton was the best overall, because I thought on any day Jack Wiltshire was just as good as a passer for football. So those two, interesting.
Should we have a look at your number one?
Yeah, go on then.
And at one, here we go. Sound like bullseye, don't I? Here we go.
Me at number one, it had to be Brett Pitman. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think we would have a club if it wasn't for Brett Pitman, to be honest. I think that season when Eddie Howe came back, he brought the best out of Pitman. He was in and out of the first team, never quite delivered on what he could have done until Howe came back. Obviously he made his debut. I think his debut actually came in a League Cup game, but as a substitute in extra time. But he made his home debut in an LDV Vans Trophy game, if you remember, Matt. That was when he scored his first goal against Aldershot. It was a penalty on the 18th.
Yeah, that's right, because it was a penalty, wasn't it? Because I remember. I think he was saying, why are they letting the youngster take the penalty?
Yeah, basically. But yeah,
how old was he? 17?
Yeah, 17, I think then. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's obviously worn squad numbers of 26, 9, 40, and 10 in his time at Bournemouth. That's because he came back halfway through a season as well. He had number 40, wasn't it? But yeah, he's played a lot of games, 301, scored 104 goals, scored total of 28 goals in all competitions in 2009, 2010. It's a pretty good return. He got four hat tricks. He scored some really good goals in his time, though, Brett. My top three would be the volley against Burton at home, where he's almost on the touchline. Thought that was amazing. Dipped into the top corner. I think that was in the Great Escape season, wasn't it? Remember rightly? Or the season we went up, one or the other.
I think it was the season we went up.
Yeah, it was one or the other, wasn't it? And then that goal at Exeter where he ran from the edge of his own penalty box.
Yeah.
That was a great goal. And then obviously Fulham away, that second goal was, if Messi had scored that would have been talked about for ages,
Yeah.
I mean, the guy I think he's massively underrated by the majority of the Bournemouth fans, Yeah, he ran a bit funny and he would miss some chances, but he scored some great goals and massively important goals along the way. He was pretty reliable from the spot. He'd missed the odd one, but compared to some of the penalty takers we've had, he was fairly reliable. I've got quite a lot of pictures of Brett here. He's in various kits and various squad numbers, but yeah, I think we got a lot to look back on Brett. I mean, he's delivered a lot for us.
Do you know the only gutting thing about Brett Pitman? How he
never got to play in the Premier League, yeah.
Yeah. Because
that was a shame, innit?
Let's be honest, he's done it at every single level.
Yeah.
Apart from getting that chance in the Prem. And I think he would have scored goals in the Premier League.
Yeah, he would.
Goals, whichever level, doesn't he, really?
Yeah.
I think he's going to absolutely destroy the goal scoring stats at Portchester this year.
Yeah. He's going to have to, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. I think, I think that's a great shout. I think that's personally a great shout. Like you say, if he wasn't here, would the club exist? The goals he scored during that season. And then, he made the step up look easy. It didn't matter which team you put in front of him. He would still score goals.
Yeah.
And I think, even if you put Brett Pitman in a game against Man United and he was 1-on-1. You'd expect him to score it still, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would rather if I had Callum Wilson or Brett Pitman through on goal, I'd rather have Brett Pitman through on goal. But the difference with Pitman and Wilson is Pitman could drift out the game for 85 minutes. You wouldn't know he's playing, and then he would score a goal. Whereas Callum Wilson could run the channels, could hold the ball up. He could do everything, couldn't he? Whereas Pitman couldn't really do much apart from score. He would score it like, if you gave him 10 chances, he'd score 8 of them. Whereas Wilson would probably only score 5 of them. But Wilson gave you more. He had pace, didn't he? But Brett lacked pace. He had a good first touch, and he scored a lot of goals. But that's what his downfall was. He lacked pace, and he's all round. He couldn't run the channels.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think that's a great shout. I think that is a really, really good shout. Do you want to go next with your top 5, or do you want me to take the mantle, Matt?
Yeah, you go first. I'll go last.
Okie doke. So, at 5, I picked Callum Wilson, but there was a bit of a toss-up. I did think about Jan Kermigan. The goals he scored, during that promotion season, what he did. There was a goal against Ipswich, wasn't there, in that running that, really does stand out for me. And the other one, of course, was Brett, because of all the goals he'd scored throughout the years, and, just gutting that he didn't get to play in the Premier League. I've gone for Callum because I think technically he's a gifted player. He's been unlucky with injuries. He's been unlucky with injuries at Newcastle as well, to be fair. But like you say, he runs the channels. He had that. He synced up with. Now, how do we call this man? He's not in my top 5 favourites. Should we call him Ryan
Judas.
Fraser, Wee Man, Judas, or Snake?
Whatever you want.
Who should we refer to him? Let's call him Snake. So yeah, his link-up play with Snake was brilliant, and they seemed to. Callum Wilson would set up Snake, and Snake would set up Callum Wilson, and the goals he scored, especially that 4th year in the Premier League, was brilliant. He signed up from Coventry for 3 million, which at the time, was a large amount. It was our biggest transfer fee that we paid at the time, wasn't it? But what he brought to the team was brilliant. And I think if it wasn't for injuries, he would have had an extended run in the England team, and I think that's why he's got to be in number 5, because he's just such a good player to watch. Not saying Jan or Brett wasn't, but I think Callum, for me, is number 5. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you with the England point. I mean, the first season, game against West Ham, and from that point on, he was on fire until that injury. And take those injuries out of the equation, I think he would have been in the England squad a lot quicker than he was, and probably would have got a longer run. But yeah, no, it's a good one for number 5. I mean, a great player for Bournemouth.
Do you think he'll ever get back in that England side? Because unfortunately, I'm starting to doubt it now.
Personally, I don't think so. I'd like to see him back in there. I mean, even though he's left Bournemouth, nothing against the player. I thought he served his time well at Bournemouth, and he played to the end, and he wanted to take that Premier League move to keep his England career going, which, in fairness to the guy, fair play. But I think now with the injuries he's had at Newcastle, I still think Newcastle will have a striker in the bag at some point in this transfer window. So I think, unfortunately, I think his England days are over. I hope I'm proven wrong. But yeah, I think he will always be remembered as one of those England players that scored on his full debut, isn't he? Yeah, shame really, because like I say, if he had never had those 2 knee injuries that he did have at Bournemouth, then he may have left Bournemouth earlier. But he definitely would have had more of a run in the England squad.
Yeah, I would agree with that, to be honest. I think I don't think he'll have much more than probably 3 more years in the Premier League because his knees, he'll go again at some point.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. I think that's a fair point. You know, he had his strike partner in Josh King, for the majority of his time here. But I think if you compare the two, what Josh King's done and what Callum Wilson's done, Callum Wilson's scored a lot of goals for Newcastle as well since he left. You know, he scored a hell of a lot here. You know, his reading of the game was really, really good. You know, I think that's why I've put him in there. But I'm just going to go for number 4. So in 4, I need to get the bullseye thing going, don't I? I need to get like a little widget on here. Hopefully, but very, very unlikely, this man may be back. And if this man comes back, let's be honest, he might go up this list quite considerably. Nathan Ake. I don't see him coming back.
I'd love him to come back.
Yeah, he was outstanding. You know, when we signed him and brought him in, you know, he was just so assured at the back. He was such a good partner for Cookie. He was strong. I think he was, you know, he's probably one of the best players I've ever seen play at Dean Court, if not the best player. And I'm guessing, would you guys say that as well? Is he the best player that we've seen play at Dean Court?
He's not the best player I've seen play at Dean Court, but he's up there. He would be in my best Bournemouth 11, yeah. But
I mean, you know, a Bournemouth player. I think, you know, personally, I think just the way he defended against some of the top strikers in the country.
Yeah, he was good, but you have to remember, like, some of those seasons that he was playing with us, we had a particularly dodgy defence. You know, like, we were getting absolutely spanked in some of them games, weren't we? And he was the only one that could defend.
Yeah.
In all fairness.
What do you reckon, Matt?
I mean, he was in my top 5. But I took him out just for a bit of balance, really. For me personally, I would say he's the best defender we've had at Bournemouth. He could do everything, couldn't he? Could win the ball in the air. He could win a tackle. You know, he could dribble out with the ball and look at creating an attack. He could play left back. He could play central defensive midfield. So he's quite versatile as well, which is a surprise a little bit why he hasn't. I thought him signing for City, I think we would have seen him play left back and centre back under Pep. I thought, especially with you know, with they lost the left back last season, didn't they? And I thought, oh, maybe he might use him as centre left back cover. So, you know, I thought in a few games, well, I don't know if he has played left back for City, but for most of the games I've seen him play for City, he's always been at centre back. So yeah, he's very versatile. I mean, I thought he's great with his feet. And again, popped up the odd important goal, didn't he? Which is always a classic for a centre back defender. Always pops up with I like goal scoring defenders. Yeah, shame that obviously, you know, he left because he had to leave. Again, another one, you know, had to go really and play top division football. Would love to see him back. Personally can't see it. I know there's a deal with Chelsea that's fell through over the last week, isn't there?
That's what's made me slightly hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, I can see.
don't
I
know
mean,
if that's-
I can agree with you being slightly hopeful on that one, but I mean, I'd love to see him come back on loan for the season.
Yeah,
love to see that. I mean, whether we'd get him permanently again, I think is probably a no.
I'd agree.
I mean, with the Nat Phillips deal at the moment, absolutely been blown out the ballpark by the looks of it. There's no talk about it now, is there? You know, the next best one I'd like to see come in would be Aki. But it'd be interesting to see how he play alongside a Lloyd Kelly.
Yeah.
For a whole season, because you know, they're both kind of ball players, aren't they? Like Lloyd is very good on the ball, just like Nathan, and sometimes you'll have a Nat Phillips kind of character, Steve Cook kind of character next to, you know, the old John Terry Rio kind of combination. You know, you've got the one that ain't scared to put his head on the ball, and then you've got the other one that's a bit classy that will play the ball out. Yeah, I can't see him coming back, but definitely for me, he's not in my top 5, but he would be definitely in my best 11. But yeah, good choice.
I think, you know, with Nathan Ake, you know, I think Lloyd Kelly was actually signed to be his replacement. Yeah, I think that's why, because I think Eddie knew somebody was going to come in for him sooner rather than later. Wouldn't be surprised to see him go to Newcastle, in all fairness, and they can afford him.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be a no-brainer for him, really. He'd be walking into a setup that he knows, you know, knows all the backroom staff. They've just signed that Botman, haven't they? Sven Botman.
Yeah.
And he looks pretty class. Put an Ake alongside him, and I think you've got a fantastic centre-back pair in there. Yeah, that's a possibility. Newcastle's definitely a possibility.
Well, let's go for number 3. And I'll be perfectly honest, Chris, I'm shocked this man wasn't in there. Mark Pugh.
Yeah, I thought about Pugh. He was almost at number 5.
I was surprised, to be honest, mate, because I think he's quality. He was signed for a minimal fee. How much was it in the end? I'm sure I've said this before.
100 grand, I think.
I think it was a tribunal settlement, wasn't it?
100 grand, I think. Or 125 grand, something like that.
From Hereford. And, you know, what he did, and he played, you know, at all levels, including the Premier League, he was able to shift the ball, you know, across his feet, and I think he has to go down as the best left-sided midfielder, you know, in our history. I think he's going to be incredibly difficult for anybody to shift him. You know, his reading of the game was excellent. Again, would you say he's the most talented player in the world? No. But he did what he could do with the quality that he had. And he still had bundles of it. And he grew season on season as well. You could tell and you could see that he was getting better. And a Bournemouth side without Mark Pugh was, personally, I think, significantly weaker. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, especially around the time when he was kind of phasing out the squad. There's a lot of time that you would see certain players on the bench, and I used to think, well, let's get, you know, I always thought that Pugh was a better option than some of the others that were on the bench at the time, because, yes, he wasn't the most skillful wingers, and he'd probably admit that himself, but always 110% from him, no matter whether Bournemouth were winning, losing, or whatever. And he could beat a man. I mean, he just proved that for, I mean, all the seasons.
About 10 years. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it was a real shame how he left. The and even when he left, I remember he come out on the pitch, little guard of honour. He went in the squad that day, which was a shame. It would have been nice to see him make a cameo to say goodbye. I think that was against Spurs?
Yeah,
I can't remember. Yeah.
And then he left, didn't he? Yeah. And it would have been nice for him to have a cameo that day just to, say goodbye. But I always rated him. I think the guy's great. He really is one of the. He's part of the furniture, isn't he, of the club? The guy's a true Drent. I've spoken to him a few times, and since he's gone on to do his, be the foodie footballer, I've messaged him a few times about his recipes and stuff, and the guy always messages back. And even when he was a player, when he used to go into the ground through the players' entrance and that, would always talk to the fans, and a real true gent of the game.
He's the sort of player that football, a lot of football clubs don't have, and he's brilliant. He's brilliant.
Yeah, great ambassador as well.
Yeah.
He did a lot of work for Care South, I think, for the community trust.
Yeah.
Used to go around the retirement homes and bring a bit of joy into there. So the guy was he is a dying breed within football, I think.
Yeah. We've been lucky to have a few of them at Bournemouth. I think.
Yeah.
Like we've had him, Fletcher, Cook. We've had a few of them. They've been they go above what most Premier League footballers do.
Yeah.
To the fans. Do you guys want a bit of Premier League breaking transfer news? We're live. Jesse Lingard joined Nottingham Forest on a $200,000 a week deal.
See, this is where things get a bit worrying now.
$200,000 a week at Nottingham Forest.
I don't know though, because how do they keep all those players that they're signing happy?
I don't know, but $200,000 a week at Forest is unbelievable, isn't it?
He's going to walk into the side, isn't he?
Yeah, he'll walk into that team, but he's only for 12 months apparently. But that's a massive signing for them.
That's got to be money, because I'm not being funny. From a career perspective, I'd much rather have signed for West Ham.
Yeah, for half the money.
Because I think West Ham have got Conference League football, European.
Yeah, I think so, something like that.
So again, you're on the European stage. Okay, it's not the Champions League, but you're on the European stage. Fair play to Forest. That is some player to sign. Let's hope that. Let's hope they got some plans up their sleeves over at Dean Court.
Yeah.
It's a signal of intent. Of course, everybody, by the time you see this, you all know it. But at the same time, there we are, breaking news whilst we were recording. There you are. Exactly when we did. No, that's cool. I'll tell you what. If I was a Forest fan, I'd be concerned by the amount of money they're spending, how long those players' contracts are, and how do you keep those players happy? Steve Cooper's never managed in the Premier League, and if they get off to a bad start and can't get themselves out of that relegation zone, they could be, numbered with quite a lot of high-paid players.
I agree with what you're saying, but if you flipped it the other way round, if you just heard that Bournemouth had just signed Jesse Lingard on a free transfer for a year, we'd be buzzing. We'd be buzzing, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I'd be happy with that. I think the 12-month deal is kind of clever, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, if Forest end up where they shouldn't be, and they do get relegated, then obviously they haven't got the whole situation of the player going down to the Championship with them on high wages, and they haven't got to put a relegation clause into the contract. Whereas if they stay up and have a good season, the player may sign another year deal, or the only issue you've got is if the player decides to move on. Lingard's 30?
Yeah, he's got to be 30.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad move. Personally, if I was him, I still would have gone to West Ham. But obviously, this has got to be a money decision, I think, because $200,000 is a lot for a club that's just come up to pay a player. So, As I think that's more of a financial decision maybe than an actual playing decision. That one might be wrong.
Well, shall we go back to my top five?
Where were we?
We've just spoken about Mark Pugh. Mark Pugh was third, Nathan Ake fourth, Callum Wilson fifth. Runner up in my top five favourite players, Biggin. Super Fletch. You call him what you want. He's a hero at this club. The amount of appearances he's had, what he was able to bring to the game, the goals he scored. Let's be fair. If he didn't score that goal against Grimsby, would we even exist? He took a massive gamble, coming back. And Crawley were in the National League at the time, and he come back, but we were on a side. We were in dire straits. We were in a difficult position, and he delivered. He absolutely delivered. Of course, he played in those playoff finals as well. That Lincoln game, especially. I don't think you can say any more than that, really. We've covered it off in quite some detail, but is there anything else you think that we could add, really, for Fletch? He's going to love this video, by the way. He's definitely getting tagged in it because, let's be honest, he is going to absolutely love this video. Like we said, he wasn't technically the most gifted player, but he'd always give 110%. Without a shadow of a doubt, he always put himself where it hurts.
Well, I remember that. I remember that season. I can't remember what exact year it was, but we just moved to the new stadium, and he'd been out for ages with his knee, and he came back and played that one game. Do you remember, against Worksop Town?
Yeah,
he scored a header, didn't he?
Yeah,
but he did his knee in again straight away, didn't he?
Yeah,
he was out for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And it just shows Fletch he wants to be involved. He put his body on the line, and do you know what I mean? Just because he wanted to be around the club, rushed himself back. Probably should have rested, shouldn't have taken part. Should have rested up a bit longer. It probably would have been back earlier. In the long term. But just shows the kind of guy wanted to be involved. Didn't want to sit back and take the wages. Just wanted to get out there and play. I
mean, the amazing fact about him is touching on the injury again. There was one time he had an injury, and I think he had his knee opened up a couple of times, I think, over different periods and that. And I think he came back and broke down again. And I think he was told that, he wouldn't play, for too long. He wouldn't have the guy was still training at the age of 40 and being prepared to play for Bournemouth at the age of 40.
Yeah.
So, he's an absolute credit to himself in terms of how our players obviously gone about with his injuries. I know he didn't train every day. He would be doing weights and obviously got bigger and bigger, which helped his game as well.
Yeah.
So, he's absolute credit to himself to play up until, any footballer to play till 40. But, when you look at Fletcher's history with his injuries, it does make you wonder how he even made it past 35.
Well, even to 35. Yeah,
or even 30. Do you know what I mean? But he played for the badge. Every time he pulled the shirt on, he's not one of these players that just puts the shirt on, goes out there, put a shift in. He played. He like I said before, he is Mr. Bournemouth, isn't he? He is the club. You can't. Obviously, I know. When my dad first started watching Bournemouth, it was McDougall.
Yeah.
He had the pleasure of watching McDougall in his early teens. And obviously then he was Mr. Bournemouth.
Yeah.
But, the association that Fletcher's got with the club, from 92 to present day, 30-year association with the club. He is Mr. Bournemouth. He's rightly got the stand named after him, which happened years ago. Should there be a statue of him out in the
I think so.
somewhere?
Bring back the animatronic man that used to be in the club shop.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's just an absolute icon. And you can't think AFC Bournemouth without thinking, no matter who's played for us in the Premier League, you can't think of AFC Bournemouth without mentioning Steve Fletcher, really.
No, I used to describe his body as a dodgy second-hand car because it used to break down all the time. Now you could describe him as a classic car, can't you?
Yeah.
He's like...
I'm sure he liked that.
But he was come up with such vital goals. You know, he was outstanding. He's still part of the club to this very day. He's a lovely man to talk to. He will always do things for fans. He was even on here. He was even on here. So, yeah, Fletch, you know, it could have easily been number one. I've put him in at number 2. Do you want to know what the number 1 is?
I know who he is.
I tell you what, my favourite player, you know, one of my favourite players of all time, Cookie. I think the man will throw his body on the line. Again, a top man that would do anything for anybody, threw his body on the line. Even when he knew that he was leaving this club, and he loved this club. He loved this club. You know, he told me it before. He absolutely loved this club. But, you know, he threw his body on the line even when he knew that he was on his way out. He went through some difficult times here as well. You know, Eddie gave him his chance against Scunthorpe. If he didn't take that chance, would he be, you know, anywhere near this top 5? You know, would he have even played in the Premier League? Don't know. But he was outstanding. You know, he was outstanding. You know, he was a big part of our rise through the leagues. He was ashore in defence. Let's forget the Norwich game. You know, that was a great save. But what do you reckon? You know, that was going to be obvious, wasn't it? I think, you know, I rave about Cookie all the time. So yeah,
ever since I've known you, you've always raved about Cookie. So yeah, I think that he was always going to be up there for you. But yeah, I agree with you. He's always been you know, he's a modern day Fletcher. He was like Mr. Bournemouth. You know, put his body on the line. Always had time for the fans. You know, he decent defender. You know, maybe played the ball a bit too much when he had easier options on. You know, but you know, always liked to score a goal. Good fully committed to the tackle. Yeah, all round good player. Decent enough captain. Yeah, good player.
Should never have been sold. Never.
No, you know, I agree with that. I don't think he should have been sold. He should have been and definitely not to a rival.
No. What do you reckon, Matt?
Again, another one that could have easily been in mine. Was in mine for at some point. I mean, for another one, due a testimonial. He's been such a part of Bournemouth's rise, and even when he was a youngster, you could tell he was going to be a decent player.
Yeah.
I mean, even when we got to the Premier League, I know some people used to think he fell short a little bit, but I thought he just got better and better year by year. My biggest criticism of Scott Parker has probably been, how do you have someone like Steve Cook not even on your bench for a lot of the season? Obviously, we can't complain because we went up. So what Parker's done, he's done his job. But for me, you've got such a leader. I mean, just look at that game against Fulham. How long had he played for? You play at Fulham on a Friday night and you're chucking your body on the line like he did. I mean, And I just remember watching that game thinking, Jesus, you know, he's got to stay in the team now. Yeah, obviously,
not been out of the team. He was, you know, he was that good. He should have been in the team as soon as he come back from injury.
I totally agree with you, but I think when, you know, you hear rumours that he was left out last year for the pre-season tour, they said he wasn't fit enough. I mean, you still take your club captain, even if he's just doing running, you know, even if he's not doing ball work, because, you know, your captain should be part of the squad as much as possible. So when that come around, I did think he may not be there much longer. Yes, for me, he's good. Well, like I say, he's been in and out of my top 5. My top 5 would be totally different to your twos, because I found it extremely difficult to do a top 5, to be fair. Because just the amount of players we've had over the years, you know.
Oh, then Matt, whirl away.
Right, well, mine ain't in any particular order. So mine's not, you know, if you're number 5 doesn't mean you're number 5. At the end of the day, I mean, I could have done.
He's changed the rules. Matt's changed the rules.
So, but just going in at number 5, I'm going to go with Ian Cox.
I knew he would be in your somewhere.
Yeah, it has to be. Wore number 7 for Bournemouth. He was the first player to wear number 7 for Bournemouth when squad numbers were issued in 1998. He changed from traditionally wearing 5 the season before that to wearing number 7. And when they issued numbers, he got that number the following season. He played 173 games. League games, scoring 16 times. There's also a Trinidad and Tobago international, earning 16 caps, to which he was part of the World Cup squad in 2006. Yeah, Coxie, I mean, what appealed me to Coxie when he first come in was how he was one of the first ones that Machin kind of transitioned quite successfully. He come from Palace as a centre midfield, sorry, and Machin converted him into a centre back, to which I think the season where we were in the receivership, I think he was our leading goal scorer that season with like 8 goals. And I remember him at Bristol City. He scored a goal, which at the time we thought might have been the last goal of the club's existence. Following season was made captain, and he just always looked class in a tackle, very good in the air. Formed a fantastic partnership with Eddie Howe. Obviously, Eddie Howe was very young at the time. First ever captain to lead us out at Wembley. He was just my very first hero was Mark Morris, but I thought he was a little bit dated for this, so I left him out. But I thought I've got to put an old one in there, a couple of old ones in there. But yeah, Coxie should have probably left Bournemouth for a lot more money as well. I think he only went for about 500 grand, and at the time there was rumours in the press it'd go for about 1 million, 1.2 million, which at the time was very, very good money. And the ironic thing was he signed for Burnley and then made his debut on the Saturday at Bournemouth. So he's my number 5.
I would. That's a good choice. Good.
Well, yeah. What do you two think?
He used class. You know, very. I know we were young, but he was a very classy player.
Yeah, he was. I mean,
he scored regularly for a defender, and he had so many sides to his game. You know, very good player.
Yeah, very athletic. Still involved at the club now. Part of Steve Cuss's team, I think, isn't he there? So yeah, again, another guy I've met. I met him He was playing for a charity game alongside Darren Anderton and Jimmy Glass at Tattenham for Lashings FC. It was a charity event. Met him, had a photo with him. Just a really nice, humble guy. Really nice guy. Another one that's a gentleman of the game.
Yeah.
Really nice. He'll always talk to you. You see him around the ground on match days. You know, people still talk to him now, and he always takes his time to chat to whoever's giving him the time. So, again, another gentleman of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move on to number 4. Someone a little bit more recent.
Yeah, put them in order then.
No. I've
just
mixed
random
up
order.
a little
There
bit.
you go.
I've gone with Lewis Cook. Worn number 18, number 16, number 4 for Bournemouth. He's played 134 league games, scoring 2 goals. He's been capped at pretty much every level for England, from under 16 up until full cap. Reason why I've got Lewis in there is because, I mean, going back to kind of the Darren Anderton, Jack Wiltshire, again, another player who I think, without a couple of knee injuries he's had, I personally think he'd be in my England squad, to be honest. And I'm hoping with us back in the Premier League that maybe Gareth will have a cheeky little look at him again if he gets a run of games and stays fit, because I think he's great in that midfield. I mean, some of the games last season, especially towards the end of the season, he was man of the match every game for me. The way he wins the ball, he's not scared to go in for a tackle. He's great at passing. He can pick out a pass from virtually anywhere on that pitch. He doesn't pop up with loads of goals, but he's the type of player you don't need to score the goals. He's the one that does the dirty work and make it look easy, really. I mean, I like the kid since he come in. I know the first season he was here, when we brought Jack Wiltshire in, he kind of didn't get a look in, but I remember when Wiltshire, towards the end of the season, I think he broke his leg at Spurs, didn't he? And I think the next game, Howe put Cook in, and it was almost like Wiltshire was still there, because just of the pure quality of the player. Really, probably last 2 seasons being the Championship, he probably could have easily moved if he wanted to, but fair play to the guy. He's stuck with Bournemouth. He's back in the Premier League now, and I hope he can look really good next season. I think he could be very key for us. I mean, the midfield is very key for Bournemouth next season, and for me, he is part of that midfield, obviously, alongside Jeff and Phil Billing. I think that's a decent Premier League midfield for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I think, our midfield are, strong.
Strong. Very strong midfield.
Premier League midfield.
Easy on any day.
Yeah.
Right. You two got anything to add on that one? Or
I would agree with Lewis Cook. He's very similar to Jack Wiltshire. I would agree. Lewis Cook's very classy. I like him.
Yeah, he's very class.
Quality player. Just really unlucky with injuries throughout his time here. I think he will go on leaps and bounds, and I think he's vital for us next season. So yeah, I can't disagree with that at all.
Cool.
Okay, let's go a little bit retro then. Just a little bit retro. Probably one of Bournemouth's best bargain buys alongside Harry Arter. But number 3, I'm going to go in with Wade Elliott. One that actually I'm surprised Chris didn't pick.
I thought about it.
I thought you would have. Bournemouth numbers. I think he wore number 30 to start with. Moved down to number 16 and then eventually settled into number 11. 5-year spell at Bournemouth. Very good 5-year spell. 222 league games, popping up with 31 goals. had a lot of success with, scored the winning goal, I think, for Burnley at Wembley, didn't he? To take him up to the Premier League.
Yeah.
With Wader, he come in and just tore the right side of midfield up, or whatever side at the time Machin decided to play him. What did he cost, Chris? Was it $5,000?
Yeah, £5,000.
Ashley.
Yeah.
And he come in and he was just absolute breath of fresh air. And he just grew and grew and grew as a player. I mean, the runs he used to make, I mean, he'd just pick up the ball in our own half, and before you knew it, he was looking up to put a cross in.
Yeah.
And also a very good goal scorer as well. He's a winger that scored quite a few goals. But Wade always stood out for me. He was always exciting to watch. You knew when Wade got the ball, you knew that the Bournemouth were going to start creating something. Rarely lost a ball from what I can remember in our own half. As soon as Wade got it, that was it. You knew he was going to start attack down the flank. I like to include a couple of the older players because I think sometimes they get a bit forgotten. And if I was having to pick a best 11, Wade would be in there or thereabouts.
I think it's a good shout. Very, very good shout, Wade Elliott.
What do you remember then, Chris? You're bound to have some memories of.
Yeah, I'm very similar to what you've said. I would, for my best 11, I probably would have Wade Elliott on the right and Mark Pugh on the left. To be honest, just for he got round people with ease, and he used to just knock it round them and run round them, and they'd still be like 5 yards behind. He could get, and he had a good link up with Neil Young, didn't he? He had a really good partnership.
Yeah.
And he would score like really good, like some spectacular goals, wouldn't he, Wader?
Yeah.
Important goals as well. He probably set up Fletcher for probably 25 of his goals, didn't he, or something in his career?
Yeah, he was very creative from an assists point of view. Probably not the most skillful players, but
no, he didn't have any tricks, did he? Just knock it round and cross or shoot.
Again, reached a very, very good level of football.
Yeah.
And now he's manager at Cheltenham Town, which we one I'll keep an eye on next season to see how he does there.
I think he'll do well because he's bright, he's clever, he can read the game again.
Yeah, another good player. Hopefully, he makes a good career in management. Unless we draw him in the cup, in which case I hope he gets stuffed. But other than that, hope he has a very good season.
Yeah.
Should we dive into number 4?
Yeah.
Number 4.
I think we've had 5, 4, 3,
2, probably.
2? Is this 2 or 1?
Oh, sorry, 2. Sorry, we're going back.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, never mind. Right. He's been mentioned several times, I think, this evening. Jan Kermorgant.
Yeah. Is that actually how you pronounce it? Jan
Kermorgant?
Jan Kermorgant, I think. I don't know. It's set however we want. I think everybody's probably got a different.
Yeah. Well, we know who Jan is anyway.
Yeah, Jan the man.
For me, when he come into the side, actually, let's just run through his stats because we'll have a little stat screen up now, haven't we? Yeah. For Bournemouth, he wore number 18. Made 61 league appearances, scoring 24 goals. For me, personally, it was almost like when we lost Steve Fletcher, when I say lost, he obviously retired. There was something, until we signed Jan, I always thought there was that little bit missing, that we needed someone to come off the bench and be a big man sometimes. Obviously, I know he started a lot of games, but at the time I sit there thinking, we ain't got no big man on the bench. And Jan come in, and he's a completely different player to Steve Fletcher. Obviously, I'm sure he probably scored a lot more goals with his feet than Fletcher did. But he was kind of that more modern day type big man that we needed, I think, for the Championship at the time. And I remember I did the goal against Ipswich with some sort of crazy aerobatic kick, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the one I was referring to earlier on. It was an outstanding goal.
Phenomenal goal. But not only that, I mean, the first season and second season he was with us, he was always fairly consistent. Always liked watching him and Wilson play together. I thought they were a good little team when they were played together. I mean, getting to the Premier League, I thought he should have more games that first season, to be honest. I thought there was games in the Premier League that was screaming out for Yang to be playing.
7 games in the end, was it? If
was
I'm
it
right,
something like that? Seven in the Premier.
7 in the Prem. I might be wrong.
I mean, obviously, he was at the stage of his career where he needed to play games by that point, which was, fair enough. And obviously, he moved on. But there was games that season where you think, come on, chuck Yang on. Let's see if he can pull something out of the bag. And for me, Yang is what I would describe as a cult hero. Because for those, 2.5 years he was with us, he made a real big impression. And yeah, like I say, I was ashamed that, I mean, a bit like Brett Pittman, really. It's a shame that, he didn't get more time in the Premier League, just like, shame Brett didn't get a chance at all. But yeah, no, he had a fantastic career. I don't know what he's doing now. He's retired, isn't he? So, anyone know what do you do? Just go coaching or anything?
I'm not sure at all. I think he's back in France. He's definitely back over in France, but
I mean, he was in a match day article. I think it was asking for fans' top 5. I think I had cult heroes. I think, and it was in the Chelsea program before COVID, and I had players like Jan, Klaus Jorgensen, Frank Rowling. I had Mark Morris in there, so this is what I mean. This is why doing this top 5 was so difficult, because when I was doing that for the program, that took me about 3 nights to think of doing that. So, it's always difficult to leave someone out.
Do you know what? I've just been having a look as well at one thing he did say, and he wanted to finish his career here, which makes me think that it wasn't his choice. That he left, and it's a shame. It's a real shame, because he was a great player at this football club. The goals he scored, he should have had a couple more opportunities in the Premier League. I think we can all agree on that. And he wanted to finish his career at Bournemouth. In the end, he went off to Reading and then went back to France to play in League Two. So, yeah, I would have liked to have seen more from him.
Yeah.
In the Prem, of course.
Okay, should we have the big number 1?
And in one.
Like I say, no real order for me, but thought he was inspirational when he came in last season. I know, obviously, Dom stole the limelight with his goals. I know Philip Billing had a great season last year, but what really capped it off for me was the addition of Ryan Christie. Last season. Obviously, it's worn number 10, 38 league games and 3 goals. Remember watching some of the Scottish football over the last few years and seeing him play and really liking him. And some of the games I watched, he scored some real screamers. So I was really excited when he came in. And to be fair, I thought he was the final bit in the jigsaw for that squad last year. Especially when, we lose a player of Brooks's caliber for the season. You get someone in like Christie. I just thought he made that side in from maybe a playoff side into an automatic promotion side. I just love the way he just does not give up. I mean, the way he likes to beat his man. I mean, he's not scared to shoot. I just think he's the icing on the cake for the squad last season, really. That's why I stuck him in. He's obviously a Scottish international as well. I think we're going to see a lot more from him. And I think the Premier League is going to suit his game. Like I've said before about Brooks, I think the Premier League is more suited. Brooks is more suited to the Premier League. I think that's going to be the same with Ryan Christie. And I think those two players are going to be quite dangerous for us next season.
I think that's a great shout. Because I think, personally, Christie... I was a bit... When we signed him, I had seen a couple of Celtic games. I thought, he's a decent player. But the transition from the Scottish Premier League, where you're playing teams like St Mirren, and I might get knocked for this from Scottish fans, but I don't care. Celtic and Rangers are never going to really finish outside the top two because the rest of the league is shit. Put nicely. There we go. Have a go at me, Scottish fans, but the rest of the league is shit.
That's a brave comment.
Yeah, I'm going to get hammered for that. But he showed that he can make it in this country, and in the Championship. I think he'll make the step up to the Premier League. I'm not surprised he shone at Celtic because of the quality of the rest of the league, but he shone here, and I think he will shine in the Premier League as well. He's a talented player, and he's young. He's only going to get better.
Yeah, great. He was a good signing. I'm surprised he's in your top five. Yeah, great player, a lot of potential. I hope he can add a few more goals because he gets in the position a lot, and then just maybe his final finish isn't quite there as often as I would like.
Yeah,
but he's got great potential, a lot of potential.
Yeah. Like I say, I mean, this was difficult. Top five. I mean, I could.
We can all do about.
I knew the ones that you would have put in there. I knew you were going to put Fletcher in there. I knew you were going to put Brett Pittman in there, and I was there thinking, well, do I want to be the same as Chris and you just talk about the same players all night, or should I just mix it up a bit?
Yeah, no,
that's what I've done with That's what I've done with this. Is
fair play.
It'd be interesting when we eventually, or if we eventually do the
best 11,
our favourite 11.
Yeah,
rather than maybe.
I think we might have to do that at some point. But do let us know what you think as well in the comments below. Name your 5 favourite Bournemouth players, and also across Twitter and Facebook. Let us know. And what we'll do is we'll pick out a couple of them as well. Actually, we'll probably pick out all of them, and we'll just give it a quick run through. Before we sign off tonight, we do have a little bit of a quiz as well. And Chris, I'll let you talk through this.
Okay, so we've come up with this Who Am I quiz. Basically, the first person to answer this correctly on YouTube gets a shout out next week. So this is our one for this week. So these are the clues. I came through the youth system. I made my first team debut away from home, age 17. I played 16 times, but I only started once. I went to a local non-league club after leaving AFC Bournemouth. I most recently have been playing and coaching in Australia. So there you go, Cherries fans. Come out there, tell us who you think it is, and whoever's first, they'll get a shout out next week.
That's bloody difficult, Chris.
I know. Well, I didn't want to start it too easy.
You didn't want to start with something like, I made 741 appearances.
Well, exactly. You've got to make them work for it.
Yeah, exactly. So there we are. Put it out on Twitter. So the Twitter account is UTCIAD AFCB. Or do let us know on the Facebook shows channels as well, or let us know via direct message or something like that, on here. But yeah, an interesting one. So we need to think of what we're going to talk about next week. We'll leave it as a little bit of a surprise this week, but I'm guessing you're in for it, and Chris, and you're in for it, Matt.
Yep,
Of course.
Good. Be here next week.
Might even see this zany shirt that everybody's going on about. But yeah, it's been a load of fun again. And do you know what? It's quite surprising. How many players have we got the same? So I've got Fletch. Chris has got Fletch. But I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Which is crazy, really. So yeah, loads of debate. Whose list was the best as well? Just let us know. You know, do you prefer my list, Chris's list, or Matt's list? Or,
if I have to vote for one of our lists personally, I'd go for Matt's minus Ryan Christie. The rest of the list is bang on.
I think it's very I think Matt, your list is.
If he swapped Ryan Christie out for Fletch, it would be like the perfect list.
Some of your picks, Chris, surprised me.
Yeah.
Did my list, be perfectly honest now, did my list surprise you at all? Well, number one didn't, to be honest. Number two probably didn't.
It did and it didn't, to be fair. Maybe I knew Callum Wilson would be in there as well. I thought Callum Wilson would be in there, but maybe 4 and 3. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, until the next video, up the cherries. Don't remember
forget to sign up. Sign up.
Sign up, yeah. Sign up to the Fantasy Football. Hit the subscribe, the bell button, the like button, any button you can feel on our channel. Make loads of comments. We do get quite a lot of good comments as well. So thank you to John Bond, who seems to be a regular commenter. Niall Kane, also regular commenter. We do like them. I can't think of any others, but they'll probably comment and tell me that I've left them out. So I'll mention you next week.
Anything with Cherry
Oh dear. Yes, yeah. So I have, of course, left the Cherries Trust as well, which I'm absolutely delighted with. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think, things do need to change. And, I think that's probably it, really. I don't know what more we can say, but going to get me in trouble, Chris. But, no, don't, fair enough. But until the next video, up the cherries, and I'll see you in the next one.